Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive.
Yep.
And today we are going to tackle something.
Yeah.
Something that it seems like a lot of you have been thinking a lot about, based on the sources that you've sent in.
For sure.
How to take back your privacy
Yeah.
in this
In this crazy...
wild west of a digital world, right? I mean, it's like everywhere you turn, it's data breaches, surveillance. Those ads that follow you around, like creepy little ghosts.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel powerless in all of this.
Right.
But here's the twist. You're not powerless.
Exactly.
You actually sent in a bunch of sources about some incredible cutting-edge tools that can help you reclaim your privacy and even fight for freedom. I mean...
That's what's so fascinating about this deep dive. We're moving beyond just complaining about big tech and into a realm where we can actually leverage tech to protect ourselves.
It's like we're about to unlock a secret arsenal of digital defenses.
Exactly.
Where do we even begin?
Well, it's important to understand the scope of the problem first. We often think about our phones and computers as the main culprits in data collection, but it goes way beyond that.
Okay, so what are we talking about? TV?
Okay.
Your fitness tracker?
Mm-hmm.
Even your seemingly innocent robotic vacuum cleaner.
Okay, hold on.
They're all gathering data.
My vacuum cleaner is spying on me.
Potentially.
That's hilarious and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah, I know.
What kind of data are we talking about?
Everything from your location and browsing history to your spending habits and even your physical movements within your own home.
So basically, someone could piece together a pretty detailed picture of my life just from this data.
Unfortunately, yes. And that data is valuable not just to advertisers, but also to governments and corporations who use it for surveillance, profiling, and even manipulation.
So it's not just about those targeted ads anymore.
Right.
We're talking about potential threats to our
freedom.
To our freedom and autonomy.
Autonomy, yeah.
But you mentioned tech as a solution. How does that work? That's where the concept of tech optimism comes in. It's not about blindly trusting technology, but rather using it strategically to counter the very problems it creates.
So fighting fire with fire.
Exactly.
But in a digital sense.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. What kind of tools are we talking about?
There's a whole ecosystem of privacy-enhancing tools out there, from encrypted messaging apps to privacy-focused browsers and search engines.
Okay, so let's break it down. You're browsing the web. You're like, man, these ads are watching my every move.
Yeah.
What's your first line of defense?
Switching to a privacy-focused browser like Brave or Firefox Focus would be a great start.
Sure.
These browsers are designed to block those pesky trackers that follow you around and collect data on your browsing habits.
So it's like putting on an invisibility cloak for my online activity. But are there any downsides to these privacy-focused browsers? Like, would they slow down my internet or limit the websites I can access?
Not at all. In fact, many people find that these browsers actually improve their browsing experience because they're not bogged down by all those trackers and ads.
Okay, that's great.
So yeah, it's a win-win.
So it's like a win-win.
Yeah.
But what about when you're searching for information? Like, I have to admit, I am a complete Google addict.
Yeah, me too.
Is there like a more private alternative?
Absolutely. DuckDuckGo is a search engine that doesn't track your searches or store your personal information. It's like searching the web without leaving a trail of digital breadcrumbs.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So I can finally satisfy my curiosity?
Right?
Without feeling like Big Brother's looking over my shoulder.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
But what about communication, like email? Email seems like a black hole of privacy.
You're right. Traditional email providers often don't prioritize privacy. But there are secure email platforms like ProtonMail and Tutanota that offer end-to-end encryption.
Wait, so remind me again, what is end-to-end encryption?
Think of it like sending a postcard versus a sealed letter. With a postcard, anyone can read what you've written. But with a sealed letter, only the person with the key can open it and read the contents. End-to-end encryption works similarly. Your messages are scrambled so that only the intended recipient can decipher them.
So even if someone intercepted my email, they wouldn't be able to read it without the key?
Exactly.
That's reassuring. What about all those files I store in the cloud, though?
Yeah.
That always makes me a little nervous.
Cloud storage can definitely be a privacy concern, but there are secure options like Trezor that allow you to encrypt your data before uploading it. This way, even if the cloud provider's servers were hacked, your files would remain inaccessible to unauthorized parties.
Okay, so we've covered browsing, searching, email, and storage. It's amazing how many tools are already out there to help us reclaim our digital privacy. But are there any downsides to using these tools? Do you have to sacrifice convenience or functionality?
That's a great question. And honestly, there are some potential trade-offs to consider. For example, using an encrypted messaging app like Signal might mean convincing your friends and family to switch over as well.
So there's a bit of a network effect.
Yeah.
The more people who use it,
Right.
the more effective it becomes.
Exactly. And that's why it's important to spread the word and encourage others to prioritize their privacy as well.
It's like a collective effort to build a more privacy-conscious digital world.
Exactly.
But what about those futuristic, almost sci-fi sounding advancements?
Yeah.
You mentioned something about being able to analyze data without actually seeing it.
Yep.
What's that all about?
That's where we get into the realm of homomorphic encryption.
Okay.
A truly groundbreaking technology.
Break it down for me. How does that even work?
Imagine a special lockbox that allows you to perform calculations on the contents without ever opening it. That's essentially what homomorphic encryption does. It lets you analyze data while it's still encrypted, keeping the underlying information completely private.
So you're telling me we could potentially have all the benefits of data analysis without the risks of privacy violations.
Exactly.
That's incredible. What kind of real-world applications are we talking about?
Well, think about financial institutions being able to detect fraud without ever accessing your sensitive financial details. Or healthcare providers analyzing medical data for research purposes without compromising patient confidentiality.
Okay, that's huge. It's like we're entering a new era of data privacy where we can have both security and innovation. What other mind-blowing advancements are on the horizon?
Let's talk about decentralized identity platforms. These platforms aim to give you complete control over your personal information, allowing you to choose what data you share and with whom.
So instead of having our data scattered across countless companies and platforms,
Right.
we could have a secure, centralized hub where we manage our own digital identities.
Precisely. Imagine being able to verify your age without revealing your full birth date, or proving your income for a loan application without disclosing your entire financial history.
Whoa, no more filling out endless forms and sharing unnecessary personal information.
Right.
That sounds incredibly liberating. But how would these decentralized platforms actually work? Would I need some kind of special device or software?
It's still early days, but the idea is to create a secure and interoperable system where you can store and manage your digital credentials, such as your driver's license, passport, or even your educational qualifications.
So it's like having a digital wallet for your identity, where you can selectively choose which credentials to share with different services and institutions.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is that you would have complete control over your data, and no single entity would have a complete picture of your identity.
Wow, this is all starting to feel very Black Mirror, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Are there any other privacy-enhancing marvels we should be aware of?
Well, have you ever heard of zero-knowledge proofs?
Zero-knowledge proofs. Is that like some kind of Jedi mind trick where you convince someone of something without revealing any actual information?
It's not quite magic, but it's pretty close. Imagine being able to prove you're over 18 to enter a website without revealing your exact birth date, or proving you have enough funds for a transaction without disclosing your entire bank balance.
So it's like a way to prove you meet certain criteria without having to reveal any unnecessary personal detail.
Exactly.
That's incredibly powerful. It seems like these advancements could fundamentally change how we interact online and give us so much more control over our digital lives. Is there anything else brewing in the privacy tech world that we should know about?
There's a growing movement towards decentralized DNS, which is basically the phone book of the internet. Currently, DNS is largely controlled by a handful of centralized entities, which means they can see and track all your internet queries.
Hold on, remind me again what DNS actually does.
It translates those easy-to-remember website names like Google.com into numerical IP addresses that computers understand.
Oh, right. So how would decentralizing DNS enhance privacy?
By distributing that control, it makes it much harder for anyone to monitor your online activity.
So it's like taking the power away from the gatekeepers and giving it back to the users.
Exactly. It's about creating a more democratic and private internet where your browsing habits aren't constantly monitored and monetized.
This is also fascinating. It's like we're on the cusp of a major shift in how we think about and interact with technology.
Yeah.
But what about artificial intelligence? AI seems to be everywhere these days, and it often feels like it's being used to gather even more data about us.
You're right. AI has been heavily leveraged for surveillance purposes. But it's important to remember that AI itself is a tool. It can be used for good or for bad.
So how can AI be used to enhance privacy instead of eroding it?
One promising approach is local AI processing. Instead of sending your data to a centralized server to be analyzed by a powerful AI, Imagine if the AI could run directly on your device. This way, your data never leaves your control.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like having a personal AI assistant that works exclusively for you and respects your privacy.
Another exciting area is the development of decentralized AI models. Instead of relying on a single, powerful AI controlled by a corporation or government, imagine a network of smaller, interconnected AIs that work together collaboratively. This could distribute the power and make it much harder for any single entity to misuse AI for surveillance.
So it's like creating a checks and balances system for AI
Right.
to prevent it from becoming too centralized
Exactly.
and potentially dangerous.
By distributing the control and processing power, we can create a more ethical and privacy-respecting AI ecosystem.
Wow, this is like a whole new world of possibilities.
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away with all these exciting advancements,
Yeah.
let's take a step back and consider
Right.
the potential downsides or challenges that we need to be aware of.
Yeah.
Because let's be real, nothing is ever perfect.
Yeah.
Right? Are there any trade-offs or unintended consequences that we should be thinking about?
You're absolutely right. No technology is without its challenges. One concern is the complexity of some of these solutions. For these tools to be truly empowering, they need to be user-friendly and accessible to everyone, regardless of their technical expertise. Otherwise, we risk creating a digital divide where only the tech-savvy can fully benefit from these advancements.
Yeah, and that's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's like having a powerful tool but not knowing how to use it.
Right.
It's useless. So how do we make these privacy tools more accessible to the average person?
We need to focus on creating user interfaces that are simple, clear, and don't require a deep understanding of the underlying technology. We need to make privacy as easy as using our favorite social media apps or streaming services.
So it's about simplifying the user experience without sacrificing the power of the technology.
Exactly. We need to strike a balance between security and usability.
That makes sense. What other challenges do you see?
Another potential issue is the lack of interoperability between different privacy solutions. Right now, it can feel a bit like a patchwork quilt, with different tools working in isolation.
So instead of having a seamless experience, you have to jump through hoops and use multiple different platforms to achieve a desired level of privacy.
Exactly. Imagine if you had to use a different messaging app to talk to each of your friends because they all use different platforms that couldn't communicate with each other. It would be incredibly frustrating.
It would be like trying to fit together puzzle pieces from different sets.
Right.
They might be individually interesting, but they don't form a cohesive picture.
That's a great analogy. We need to work towards creating a more unified and interoperable privacy ecosystem where different tools can work together seamlessly.
So it's not just about individual tools.
Right.
It's about building a cohesive and interconnected system.
Exactly. It's about creating a digital infrastructure that prioritizes privacy by design, where the default settings protect our data and empower us to make informed choices.
That sounds like a grand vision, but also a very challenging one.
Yeah.
How do we even begin to approach such a monumental task?
It starts with collaboration. We need technologists, policymakers, privacy advocates, and everyday users like you to come together and work towards a common goal. We need to develop open standards and protocols that allow different privacy tools to communicate and share data securely.
It's like building a digital city.
Right.
Where everyone agrees on the rules of the road and the infrastructure is designed to prioritize the well-being of its citizens.
And just like a physical city, it requires constant maintenance and evolution to keep up with the changing needs of its inhabitants.
So it's an ongoing process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The digital landscape is constantly evolving, and we need to be adaptable and proactive in our approach to privacy.
And speaking of evolution, let's talk about the role of artificial intelligence in all of this.
Okay.
We touched on how AI can be used to enhance privacy. But are there also risks we need to consider?
AI is a double-edged sword when it comes to privacy. On the one hand, it can be used to develop powerful privacy-enhancing tools like those we've discussed. But on the other hand, AI can also be used to create even more sophisticated surveillance systems.
So it's like giving a powerful tool to both the heroes and the villains.
In a way, yes. It's crucial that we develop ethical guidelines and regulations for the development and use of AI, particularly when it comes to data privacy.
So it's not just about the technology itself.
Right.
It's about the values and principles that guide its development.
Precisely. We need to ensure that AI is used in a way that respects human rights, promotes fairness, and empowers individuals rather than controlling them.
It's a tall order, but a necessary one.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we risk creating a future where technology serves the interest of a select few at the expense of the many.
And that brings us back to the importance of individual action and awareness. The future of privacy depends on us. We need to be informed, engaged, and vocal about our privacy rights.
So it's not just about using the right tools. It's about being active participants
Yeah,
in shaping the digital world we want to live in.
exactly. It's about recognizing that you have a voice and a choice in how technology is developed and used.
This deep dive has been a profound reminder that the fight for privacy is far from over.
Yeah.
It's a constant evolution, a delicate balance between harnessing the power of technology while safeguarding our fundamental rights.
And it's a fight worth fighting because ultimately privacy is about more than just keeping our personal lives secret. It's about protecting our freedom of thought, expression, and association. It's about creating a world where we can be ourselves without fear of judgment or surveillance.
You know, it's interesting because all of this ties back to some specific examples you shared in your sources,
Yes.
especially about how these tools are being used in places where those freedoms are most under threat.
Right.
Places like Iran, Mexico, even with the Great Firewall in China. It's like the stakes are so much higher in those contexts.
Absolutely. In those situations, privacy tools aren't just about convenience or personal preference. They're about survival, about protecting yourself and those around you from real danger.
Yeah, I'm thinking about those journalists in Mexico using encrypted messaging apps to communicate with their sources, knowing that exposing corruption could put their lives at risk. It's incredibly brave and shows how crucial these tools can be in fighting for truth and justice.
And in places like Iran, we saw how Signal became a lifeline during protests, allowing people to bypass government blocks on communication and organize themselves.
It's like those tools become weapons in the fight for freedom of speech and assembly.
Exactly. And it highlights the importance of ensuring these tools remain accessible and resilient, even in the face of government censorship and surveillance.
Okay, so we've talked about the problem, the solutions, the challenges.
Right.
But I want to bring it back to you, the listener. What can you actually do right now to reclaim your privacy? Where do you even start?
The first step is awareness. Take some time to understand how your data is being collected and used.
Like, read through those privacy policies that we all just blindly click through.
Exactly. You might be surprised by what you find. Then start exploring the tools we've discussed today. Try out a privacy-focused browser or search engine.
What about you? What are some of the privacy tools that you use in your own life?
Well, I've been using DuckDuckGo as my default search engine for years, and I've switched to Signal for most of my messaging.
And have you noticed a difference in terms of your online experience?
Absolutely. I feel like I have more control over my data, and I'm less bombarded with targeted ads.
So it's not just about theory, it's about actual tangible benefits in your daily life.
Exactly. And it's not about being perfect, it's about making conscious choices that align with your values.
I love that. It's about taking back control and being an active participant in your own digital life. And that's what this deep dive is all about, empowering you to make informed decisions about your privacy and security.
And remember, every small action adds up. By choosing to use privacy-enhancing tools, you're not just protecting yourself, you're contributing to a larger movement towards a more ethical and privacy-respecting digital world.
It's like we're all part of a collective effort to build a better internet, one where privacy is not a luxury, but a fundamental right.
And that's a future worth fighting for. It's inspiring to see how these tools are making a real difference in the world, especially in places where privacy and freedom are most under threat.
You're absolutely right. It's one thing to talk about the theoretical benefits of privacy tools, but it's something else entirely to see them being used in real-life situations with such high stakes.
Think about the protests in Iran where the government tried to block access to social media and messaging apps to quell dissent. Signal, with its strong encryption, became a vital tool for people to communicate and organize.
So even in the face of government censorship, people found a way to stay connected and keep the information flowing. That's incredibly powerful.
It really shows how these tools can be a lifeline in times of crisis, allowing people to exercise their right to freedom of speech and assembly.
It's like a digital David versus Goliath story, where everyday citizens are using technology to challenge those in power.
And it's not just happening in Iran. In Mexico, journalists face immense danger when reporting on corruption and organized crime. They rely heavily on encrypted messaging apps and secure communication channels to protect themselves and their sources.
It's heartbreaking to think that simply doing their job puts their lives at risk, but it's also inspiring to see how they're using technology to fight for truth and transparency.
These journalists are incredibly courageous, and they're using every tool at their disposal to hold those in power accountable.
It makes you realize that privacy isn't just about keeping our personal lives private, it's about protecting fundamental human rights and freedoms.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we see this play out in countless ways around the world. Take China, for example. The government heavily restricts internet access with the Great Firewall, but individuals use tools like VPNs and Tor to bypass censorship and access blocked websites.
I've heard of VPNs, but could you refresh my memory on how they work?
Imagine a VPN like a secret tunnel that encrypts your internet traffic and routes it through a server in another location. This makes it appear as if you're browsing from that other location, allowing you to bypass geographic restrictions and access blocked content.
So it's like digitally teleporting yourself to another country to access the free and open internet. That's
Okay.
pretty clever.
It's a powerful tool for circumventing censorship and adding a layer of protection to your online activity.
And what about Tor? That always sounded a bit mysterious to me.
Tor is a network of volunteer-run servers that bounces your internet traffic through multiple layers of encryption, making it extremely difficult to trace back to its origin.
It sounds like something out of a spy movie. Why would someone choose Tor over a VPN?
Both VPNs and Tor offer privacy and security benefits, but they have different strengths and weaknesses. VPNs are generally faster and easier to use, while Tor offers a higher level of anonymity, making it popular among journalists, activists, and whistleblowers who need to protect their identities at all costs.
It's amazing to see how these tools are leveling the playing field, giving individuals and communities the power to challenge oppressive systems and fight for their rights.
It's a reminder that technology, while often used for control and surveillance, can also be a powerful force for good. It's about reclaiming the narrative and using these tools to build a more equitable and just world.
It's almost like a digital renaissance, where we're rediscovering the power of technology to connect, inform, and empower.
And the best part is that we're just getting started. As these technologies continue to evolve and become more accessible, we can only imagine the possibilities for positive change.
So where do we go from here? How can we ensure that these privacy-enhancing technologies become the norm, not just niche tools used by a select few?
That's the million-dollar question. It's going to take a collective effort from individuals, policymakers, and tech companies to create a more privacy-conscious digital landscape.
So it's not just about adopting these tools ourselves. It's about advocating for policies that protect privacy and holding tech companies accountable for how they collect and use our data.
Exactly. We need to shift the default settings of the internet towards privacy and security. We need to demand transparency from tech companies and hold them accountable for ethical data practices.
It sounds like we need a digital Bill of Rights outlining our fundamental rights to privacy and data protection.
That's a great analogy. We need to enshrine these principles into law and ensure they're enforced.
But how do we get there? It can feel like a David versus Goliath situation, where we're up against powerful corporations and governments that often prioritize profit and control over privacy.
It's a formidable challenge, but not an insurmountable one. Throughout history, when people come together and demand change, they can achieve incredible things.
The fight for privacy isn't just a technical challenge, it's a social and political movement.
Precisely. It's about reclaiming our digital rights and building a more just and equitable digital future.
It's inspiring to see how these tools are already empowering people around the world. But it's clear that we need to keep pushing for systemic change to ensure that privacy becomes the default, not the exception.
And that starts with awareness. The more people understand the importance of privacy and the tools available to protect it, the more we can build a collective movement for change.
So what can you do to get involved? What are some specific actions you can take to make a difference?
The first step is to educate yourself about the tools and technologies we've discussed today. There are countless resources available online.
Once you're armed with knowledge, you can start making more informed choices about the technologies you use and the data you share.
Exactly. You can choose to use privacy-focused browsers, search engines, and messaging apps. You can explore secure cloud storage options and VPNs, and you can start advocating for stronger privacy policies in your workplace and community.
It's about taking back control of your digital life and creating a more ethical and sustainable digital future.
And remember, every small action adds up. By making conscious choices and speaking up for your right to privacy, you can collectively create a more just and equitable digital world.
It's a powerful reminder that you're not just a passive consumer of technology. You have the power to shape its development and ensure that it serves humanity, not the other way around.
And that's a message worth spreading. The more people understand the stakes and get involved, the faster we can create a digital world where privacy is not a privilege, but a fundamental right.
You know, as we've been discussing all these incredible privacy-enhancing technologies, Can't help but wonder, are there any potential downsides or challenges we need to be aware of? It seems almost too good to be true. Like there must be some trade-offs or unintended consequences.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's important to approach any new technology with a healthy dose of skepticism. While these tools offer immense potential for good, we need to be mindful of potential pitfalls. One concern is the complexity of some of these solutions.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. As someone who's not a tech expert, some of these concepts can feel a bit overwhelming, like I need a degree in computer science just to understand how to use them.
Exactly. For these tools to be truly empowering, they need to be user-friendly and accessible to everyone, regardless of their technical expertise. Otherwise, we risk creating a digital divide where only the tech-savvy can fully benefit from these advancements.
So it's not just about developing the technology, it's about designing it in a way that's intuitive and easy to use for the average person.
Absolutely. We need to focus on creating user interfaces that are simple, clear, and don't require a deep understanding of the underlying technology,
Yeah.
you know?
It's like the difference between having to manually code a website from scratch versus using a drag-and-drop website builder. The end result might be similar, but one is far more accessible to a wider audience.
Precisely. We need to make privacy tools as easy to use as our favorite social media apps or streaming services. If they're too complex or cumbersome, people simply won't use them.
Right. Yeah, it's got to be easy.
Yeah.
What other challenges do you see on the horizon?
Another potential issue is the lack of interoperability between different privacy solutions. Right now, it can feel a bit like a patchwork quilt, with different tools working in isolation.
So instead of having a seamless experience, you have to jump through hoops and use multiple different platforms just to achieve like a basic level of privacy.
Exactly. Imagine if you had to use a different messaging app to talk to each of your friends because they all use different platforms that couldn't communicate with each other. It would be incredibly frustrating.
Oh, it would be a nightmare. It'd be like trying to fit together puzzle pieces from different sets. They might be individually interesting, but they don't form a cohesive picture.
That's a great analogy. We need to work towards creating a more unified and interoperable privacy ecosystem where different tools can work together seamlessly.
So it's not just about individual tools, it's about building a cohesive and interconnected system.
Exactly. It's about creating a digital infrastructure that prioritizes privacy by design, where the default settings protect our data and empower us to make informed choices.
That sounds like a grand vision, but also a very challenging one. How do we even begin to approach such a monumental task?
Well, it starts with collaboration. We need technologists, policymakers, privacy advocates, and everyday users like you to come together and work towards a common goal. We need to develop open standards and protocols that allow different privacy tools to communicate and share data securely.
It's like building a digital city where everyone agrees on the rules of the road and the infrastructure is designed to prioritize the well-being of its citizens.
And just like a physical city, it requires constant maintenance and evolution to keep up with the changing needs of its inhabitants.
So it's an ongoing process, not a one-time fix.
Absolutely. The digital landscape is constantly evolving, and we need to be adaptable and proactive in our approach to privacy.
Okay, and speaking of evolution, let's talk about the role of artificial intelligence in all of this. We touched on how AI can be used to enhance privacy, but are there also risks we need to consider?
AI is a double-edged sword when it comes to privacy. On the one hand, it can be used to develop powerful privacy-enhancing tools like those we've discussed. But on the other hand, AI can also be used to create even more sophisticated surveillance systems.
So it's like giving a powerful tool to both the heroes and the villains.
In a way, yes. It's crucial that we develop ethical guidelines and regulations for the development and use of AI, particularly when it comes to data privacy.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the values and principles that guide its development.
Precisely. We need to ensure that AI is in a way that respects human rights, promotes fairness, and empowers individuals rather than controlling them.
It's a tall order, but a necessary one. Otherwise, we risk creating a future where technology serves the interests of a select few at the expense of the many.
And that brings us back to the importance of individual action and awareness. The future of privacy depends on us. We need to be informed, engaged, and vocal about our privacy rights.
So it's not just about using the right tools. It's about being active participants in shaping the digital world we want to live in.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that you have a voice and a choice in how technology is developed and used.
This deep dive has been a profound reminder that the fight for privacy is far from over. It's a constant evolution, a delicate balance between harnessing the power of technology while safeguarding our fundamental rights.
And it's a fight worth fighting, because ultimately, privacy is about more than just keeping our personal lives secret. It's about protecting our freedom of thought, expression, and association. It's about creating a world where we can be ourselves without fear of judgment or surveillance.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought. The future of privacy is not something that will be handed to us. It's something we must actively create. By embracing privacy-enhancing tools, demanding ethical data practices, and engaging in thoughtful discussions about the role of technology in our lives, we can build a digital world that is both empowering and respectful of our fundamental rights.
Well said. The power is in your hands. Let's use it wisely.